Have you ever wondered why calling next in Express routes seems optional? It can be confusing, especially if you're coming from a different asynchronous programming background. Today, we're diving into this topic to clarify why that is. I totally get it. Many developers have faced this question. You might be thinking, if next is optional, what happens to my request flow? You're not alone in this confusion, and it's a common point of curiosity. Here's the specific question we're addressing. One user asked, why is calling next optional in Express routes when everything seems to work fine without it? This is a great question and one that many developers ponder. So what happens when you skip calling next? In Express, if you don't call next, the request response cycle will end after the current middleware function. This means that if you send a response, the flow stops there and no further middleware will be executed. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip on how to manage your middleware effectively, which can save you a lot of headaches down the line. To understand why calling next in Express routes is optional, we first need to recognize how Express handles control flow. When a route handler is executed, it can either send a response or pass control to the next middleware using next. In the case of a successful operation, like logging in a user, the user can simply send a response without calling next. This is because Express will automatically end the request-response cycle when a response is sent. However, if there is an error, calling next is crucial. This allows Express to handle the error appropriately and pass it to the error handling middleware. Additionally, when using asynchronous operations, like with Passport for authentication, calling next is important for error propagation. If an error occurs during authentication, next ensures that the error is passed along. In summary, calling next is optional when sending a response, but it becomes essential for error handling and control flow in asynchronous operations. This flexibility allows developers to write cleaner and more efficient code. Fun fact, Express is built on top of Node.js, which uses an event-driven, non-blocking I/O model. This is why it can handle requests so efficiently, even when next is optional. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. According to another user, calling next in Express is primarily used to pass the request to other handlers. If your middleware or route handler doesn't want to handle the request, you call next to let Express find another handler. However, if your code does handle the request by sending a response, you shouldn't call next. Express manages control flow by checking each handler in an array, and next is optional unless you need to pass an error to the global error handler. Let's take a look at another answer from another user. According to another user, calling next is primarily for passing control to the next middleware. Express checks the number of parameters in your function. If it finds a third parameter, it knows to pass control along. However, if you send a response to the client, like using res.render, you don't need to call next, so it's not necessary to include it as an argument. Here's a quick tip. Always ensure that your middleware functions are structured properly. If you choose not to call next, make sure you are sending a response to avoid hanging requests. And there you have it. Understanding when to call next in Express can really streamline your coding process. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more insights and remember to keep experimenting with your code.